Hey there, welcome to the Girl Go Global podcast, where faith and works are empowered. With every episode, we're embracing our multi-layered lives with faith, know-how, and grit. I'm your host, Dr. Jasmine, and I'm ready to go global with you. Let's get started. Welcome to the Girl Go Global podcast, where faith and works are empowered. We are around here stepping into our faith. We are using our works to live out the courageous life for which God created us. So I'm so pleased today to have Miss Krystin Childs with me, y'all, all the way from Baltimore, Maryland. She is the personification of living the dream. From writing, graphic designs, preaching, and consulting, she is doing it all creatively. She's the founder of Chronicles of Krys Productions, a theater production company, and she owns Studio 27, along with being the co-host of Authentically Her, the podcast. I'm so excited to have Krys here today with me. Would you please introduce yourself to the Girl Go Global community?
Hey ladies, this is definitely Krys, and that sounds really amazing. I can't believe that's me. But thank you so much for having me, Jasmine, Dr. Jazz. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. We have so much to talk about because you are literally doing it all. And I'm so excited to chat with you today because I just love the work you do. I love how you just move authentically into whatever you feel like the Lord may be leading you into, you do it. And so that is a part of my mission, to talk with courageous women who are living out their purpose. So today, let's see where we want to start. Let's talk about your latest production. It's a Man's World. Let's kind of get into that. We may get into some relationship talk, but tell me about this production that you have coming up and tell us where your idea came from.
Okay, so my idea is still a man's world. It's actually a redo of the It's a Man's World that I did in 2017. But the story really actually came from, I grew up with a family where men were the dominant in our family. So it's like in most situations, I was the only girl. And so I would hear life and their life issues and different things from their perspective, where a lot of women, who are used to being around a lot of women, they normally can't relate to the man because they're just not around a lot of men. So I wrote this story to, let men know, like, that we hear you, like, just
Hmm.
saying, hey, bruh, I get you, or, my brother, my father, and just letting them know, like, that we do care about you. We do, love you. And so the moral of this story, it kind of gets into the struggles that men privately have that sometimes they don't feel comfortable talking about with their friends or, with the women in their lives. And it also talks about, the struggle between therapy and the struggle with, prayer, and just that balance. So it's a great story, and it's five friends who come from all different walks of life, that are friends, that they all have a different take, on love, life, and marriage.
Hmm. That's so cool. So it's still a man's world. So interesting. So what are some of the feedback that you received following your first production on this same topic?
So I got a lot of feedback. I think out of all of the productions that I've done, this one was one that really made me feel like, even with what I want to do writing wise, like I got the gift, because so
Hmm.
many men came back and they were like, you were talking about me. You were, it's a part where a person, feels suicidal, and it's not a dark play. It's very, funny and uplifting, but some of the stories are, very true. And I wanted the characters to connect with the audience, where you feel like you are part of their friendship, that you feel that you are a part of the cast. And one of the things that I've gotten back from the last one was that this hit home for me.
Hmm.
Or a lot of women say, you know what, I should have bought my man. I should have bought my brother. I should, because they realize that although the women enjoyed it, and we do have, we have a few women in the cast, that they realize like this was really something empowering for, for men. And I just think that we see empowerment for women all of the time, but we really don't have that for, for our Black men, especially.
That's so good. So often I hear Black men in particular are saying it's so much stuff out there for women to serve and support women, but
Mhm.
it's not much out there for the men. So that's great that you are doing a bit of an ode to men. So interesting. I love that. So tell me how long have you been writing, and let us know, how you got started.
So I originally started writing poetry at the age of 7. I started writing poetry at the age of 7. And then they started to develop in stories. So I've always had imagination. And when I was younger, I wanted to be an actress. But of course, growing, in a strict religious family, going to Hollywood and acting, that's not something the saints did, right? So I
Right.
had to kind of live out my acting wherever I went. So I would go to church and I would create a character in my head and I would become that character. And when people wanted to call me Krys, I would be like, like I remember one time I was like, I'm Queen Latifah this week, like, and I had to have the like I would have to have the costume, I would change my accent, like I would have to go in full character, and I was doing this at a young age, but I remember one time my mom had punished me. And she was like, "You're not going outside with your friends. You're not watching TV. I'm taking all of your toys," because I was like in elementary school. And I was just like, I don't care. I have a notebook. And that's how I started writing stories because I was so bent on not being boring in my room that the stories that I had in my head, I put it in paper. And it's funny how God does things because God is so strategic with unfolding your purpose and your calling in life. And a lot of times I think that people miss that your calling didn't come to you as an adult. Like your calling really started, within you as a child. So years later, as an adult, my grandmother, she asked me at that time to write a Christmas play for the church. I hadn't written a play. I was like, I don't know how to write a play. I don't know. And it was weird that she asked me to do that because there were people there who had done it. And so I heard what she asked me, and that weekend I started hearing like conversations in my head.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh, this will be good. Like, this will be good. And so I saw a scene in my head and I put it on paper. And then I wrote the play from the last scene to the front. I wrote backwards. And
Wow.
that's kind of how I do things. And I did it. And so from there, and that was probably 2000 and whoa, probably like maybe 8 or something. That was probably
Okay.
2008. And then I did my first production myself when I used to be called All for His Glory Productions. So saved. I did that in 2010. And then I went through a bad breakup, from I was engaged, and I went through a breakup and I took a 5-year hiatus. And it was funny because it was a show where just 200 people came, but I would just hear people that came to the show be like, when are you going to start writing again? Like, when are you doing another show? And I'm like, I'm not even thinking about doing a show. Like, I'm not, it's the furthest thing from my mind. But then it came, a show came to me in 2000, I think it was like maybe 14. And I came back to the theater and I've been rocking ever since then.
Wow. Talk about the seeds planted in your youth. Your mom punished you, but she didn't know it was working for your good. How
Oh my
about that?
goodness.
And then your grandmother, she's a bishop, and so she was hearing from God, and we know that,
Yeah,
right? And
right.
then talk about how a breakup can thrust you into purpose. I'm a witness to that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's so awesome. But what I will ask is, you have a multi-layer, a multi-talented person. You are multi-layered creative. You do so much, not only in the theater realm, you're a preacher, you're a consultant, you run multiple businesses. Where do you find the faith to do it all and to do it all your way?
Um, my main thing that I know is that God won't fail me.
Mm,
And when I began a project, I always know, I always ask God, like, you sure? Like, and there's been some things that I've been like, I don't, I've kind of wiggled, like, I don't know, if I want to do this, especially if it's a new venture, like basically it's like, it's a comfort zone because I've been doing it for a while now. But every time I go to do it again, it is a fear of, will you sell the tickets? Will people come? Have you lost it? Especially after the pandemic. But I think my faith comes in with knowing that what I am doing is instructions from God. And he wouldn't give me something that's going to fail. So that's the spiritual side of it. The logistic side of it, when I take on a project or I take on a venture, even though I may take a leap of faith or I may step out there, I also have calculated jumps, like I did something the other day and I told people, like, when you're doing something and you're stepping out on faith, you can still do things within means. So I start small and I allow myself to grow and develop instead of rushing into something or doing something over my head that I haven't really mastered. So that has been what I have done, for the last couple of years. The only thing about that is sometimes you do say, okay, you know what, you can do more. But I feel like I've done it that way because it lets me know, like, you are growing into a place instead of being disappointed by going to go rent the Lyric and you've only sold 500 or 700 tickets,
Right.
It's a different thing to sell out the Lyric. So
Yeah, for sure. But you realize that you gotta build, right? Everyone doesn't just jump or leap right into that big thing.
right.
So acknowledging where you need to start without being pressured by other people to do things that don't feel right for the space that you're in is definitely courageous, because sometimes people can be, a little pushy.
Yes.
For sure. So talk about, you said you get these instructions from God. Like, there might be people out there who don't necessarily understand what it means to have instruction from God. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Sure. I think when you begin to build a relationship with God, and you understand not just your communication as far as prayer, but you have to learn how God talks to you. Um, and one of the things that I've known back from a childhood is that God deals with me in dreams. And he deals with me in like repetitive things. So I would see something over and over, or would hear things over and over, or see things, in my vision and in my dreams. I would see a play, or I would see a scene, or I would hear a part of something. And so that would be him I say that's him downloading me what next to do. Now, what I had to do as a creative, those who are multi-layered when it comes to creativity, what I had to learn is that every instruction that he gave to me isn't for the instant.
For sure.
That some things may be something that he gave you to do, but it's for another year or another season. But he's giving it to you to let you know what to prepare for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what I believe. I believe that when God starts to talk to you, whether it's in your dreams, whether you see visions, or whether you hear things, or whether he shows you things that, when people say, I saw this 6 times, like it has to mean something. I believe that those are ways that God communicates to us.
For sure. For sure. I'm in a space personally um where I'm doing a lot. I got a
Mhm.
lot going on, right? And I also got some things in my backside, in my parking lot, where I say, okay, I know that I'm supposed to do that, but it's not for right now.
Right.
Then I'm at the same time, okay, so but when is it right now? I've got like book titles in my head. I got all these different little ideas. And I'm just like, for one of the book ideas I have, I'm just coming to an awareness, like it may be almost time for this, because I'm experiencing some of the things that relate to this book title that I got so long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I totally get that. Like, you get that download, but it might not be for right now. That's cool.
Right. I mean, just like if you think about a computer, and you're trying to download something, sometimes you have something that downloads quick, and then you have something that says like this download's going to take 7 hours, like, so sometimes your download is a year, sometimes your download is 6 months, and sometimes the beginning part of what you see or what you heard, he's bringing all things together. We learn that in Romans. And something, actually, I had an epiphany not too long ago where God had kept I kept hearing and I kept seeing something that I was supposed to do, but I was like, listen, I got too much on my plate. I'll get to it, right? And then I was going through something I was battling with people with like miscommunication. So communication is my major and my passion for school, and I just love communication. Like
we're kindred spirits in that regard.
I'm just very passionate about it. And, at my job and in my relationship and even with my family, I stepped back and I saw how the devil uses communication to divide. And I got so frustrated in a conversation with some loved ones. And I was like, God, as well as I try to communicate and as good as I am with teaching people proper communication, why am I going through this? And in that moment, he answered. He said, because I'm giving you material for what I told you to write and what I told you to do.
That's good.
So sometimes you don't even realize that he gives you something that you're going to do, and you're like, I'm not qualified for it yet. I don't have the resources. I don't even know all of how this is going to come together. But as you live, he's qualifying you with different things that you go on in life.
So you're a preacher, so you already know, like, the word got to come to you first, right? So I wrote this week, I guess it was all of last week, I was writing a devotional to submit to this Bible app.
Okay.
And so I had a deadline to submit it, and it's all about steadiness in God. Being steady, being steadfast, not being tossed to and fro. That's the gist, right? So I had this great weekend. I'm hanging out in DC with some friends. I come back, I have dinner with my cousin, and then some of our friends earlier that day on Saturday had told us, oh, we got free Ravens tickets, meet us at the stadium. And I'm like, bet, right? Next day, I stay out all night, so I sleep in. Thank God for virtual church. We get up, 1:00 from sleeping all day. 40-year-old can't hang out till 2 a.m. But anyway, we go out, play tennis a little bit, try to hit the ball. I feel like I'm getting my Venus and Serena on. And Monday morning, I log in for work, and about 11:00, I'm like, I need to log off. Because I wasn't steady.
Right.
Because I get an email and I'm like, wait a minute, sis about to mess up my Zen from my weekend. And I log off. I took control of my environment. I emailed and said, I need to take the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. I got a friend who reads all my stuff. We read each other's stuff, proofread, all of that kind of thing. And then I sent her my stuff, and she calls me. How did it go? Did you submit the devotional? And I go into like, oh, check out my day. Guess what happened? And she like, oh, you living out your devotional. You need to go back and read your devotional. I said, don't check me. Don't check me. Okay. But yeah, she was right, because I had to realize, change my perspective and all of that kind of thing, not just being tossed to and fro. But the good thing is I knew when to unplug. I knew I needed to take control of my environment. I called. I tried to see if I can get a massage. I tried to see if I can get this. And you know what relaxes me?
What?
Going to Whole Foods. Because I like to cook, and I like going to Whole Foods. We needed some groceries. I said, you know what? After I laid down and got my life right, I got in the car and I said, I'm going to Whole Foods. Text me if you need me get something specific to my husband. I went to Whole Foods and I felt really good. I just love thinking about what I'm going to cook, or if I'm going to cook, or, getting his little stuff.
I'm addicted to buying seasoning. So I like going to different markets to look for seasonings, because I do enjoy cooking. And one of the things that also, like, especially, I work at the morgue too, like on top of everything. So like when I just need to woosah from a heavy day at work, I go to like the thrift store and like it just brings me down. And sometimes I'm just pushing a cart and talking to God or in Ross, like
Listen, shopping therapy.
yes, it's a
But I
thing.
don't need no new clothes, so I always need to eat. I need to give some more, donate to your racks because COVID was COVIDing.
Yes, it is.
But the point is, we go through things so that we can live our purpose,
Yeah.
so it can add value to the things that God has for you, to the things they have for me. And if we step back, we'll see the goodness and godness, right, in
Hmm.
every situation.
Absolutely.
That's good. So yeah, I'm in a better place. I'm learning to be steady, and I'm also learning. You know what? There is no chill whatsoever on my devotional time with the Lord, especially when I'm logging in.
Yeah.
There's no chill. Like, and we should all be striving to live out, time, spending time with the Lord. But I just cannot have no break
Yeah.
because that's the
And
only thing
I've
that's going to
learned,
give me that steadiness. You know what I mean?
I've learned that, so I went through this place in my like this season of my life, and it's so funny because I always say church people have so many seasons. But I was before I had left church for a while, and I grew up in church, but then I left church for a while, and when I left, I actually left to grow like a stronger relationship with God.
Mm.
And I realized that, growing up, you would think like, oh, my mom and my grandmom, they're praying women. So they will be like 6 o'clock, meet us in the living room, we praying,
I get it. Sure,
and
I
I
get
and
it.
I thought that, waking up at early in the morning or with, everybody meeting in the living room was prayer, and which it is. I don't take anything away from it. And I love to hear my walk in the house and hear my mom pray. But what
Yeah,
I realized is that I can really talk to God all day. Like
all day.
I one day I realized, Jazz, that I was in conversation with God my entire day.
Mm.
Like I was just so connected. It wasn't speaking in tongues and drawing out and looking crazy. It was just a sense of peace that I had with the thoughts that was in my mind, that I felt like I was just on like a long text thread,
Mm.
with the Lord, and it gave me so much peace, even though he was telling me how to balance certain things and keeping me on making sure I don't drop the ball with, from this business to this assignment and different things like that. And I think that sometimes when people hear keep your devotion, right, they sometimes feel like, oh, I got to give this to God. But then it also becomes a pressure of, I don't even have no time for myself.
Mm.
And you don't even realize that, like, while you're taking your shower, you could be talking to God. Like,
For sure.
while you're cooking, you could be talking to God. While you're even at
Mhm.
work and typing something, just having moments to yourself that you could just be in communication with God.
Yeah, that's so true. I've had friends who kind of beat themselves up, especially when you have, kids and you got a husband, you got all these little other competing priorities, and God is definitely a priority. But have tend to beat themselves up about not having that 30 minutes or 1 hour that they once had when they were just single and just,
Right.
living. But you're so right. I walk around the track at my lunch break, or, do my shot. I do the shower thing. But that intentional time to kind of unplug and just kind of do my affirmation, even if it's just for a few minutes, it just, reinvigorates my spirit in ways that allow me to find my center daily. Because with so many things that I have going on, it's just so important for me and my health and my sustainability to just get up in the morning and say, hey, God, good morning. You know what I mean? Let this be a good day. We thank you for this day. We thank you for the wake up. You know what I'm saying? Just something that's going to allow me to kind of refocus. And so, yeah, I get it for sure. No pressure on, if you ain't praying for an hour, most people don't pray for an hour. So don't don't be pressured out there if you feel like, oh, I need to be in the, talking in tongues, and I need to be, on my knees. I used to lay in the bed and pray. Hello. So
Yes.
until I got married, then I had to find another altar. But yeah, this is so good. I'm talking to Miss Krystin Childs. She's the creative. I'm just going to say, call her the creative because she has so many titles and all of them lead back to creativity. And that creativity comes from God. She is definitely a global girl. So, Krystin, how do you do it all? Like, do you have a team? Do you have who helps you? Who supports you? How do you make all of these things work?
Of course, the source is God. But I do have a team. I do have a team with some things. Like with my theater production, I definitely have a team. My best friend is my hand. Like she is my hand. She's a part of almost everything that I do, and she's super creative as well.
Mm.
And what we have learned in our friendship is our strength and our weaknesses. So she's more like I'm more of the extrovert. She's more of the introvert. So a lot of the stuff she likes to do is kind of behind the scenes, but a lot of things that I do actually happens because of her. So I definitely have a team that does help me. The ironic thing is a lot of the things that I do creative wise, I taught myself how to do certain things because I was just in need of it. Like, you know, for graphic designs. I self-taught myself graphic designs because I needed graphics and I just didn't have it in the budget at the time
Mm.
to pay someone for as many as graphics as I needed. So I think like for balance, I really it's ironically mentally is where all of my stuff is. If I write something down, I'm gonna forget it. But I have it like programmed in my head and I just know like things have to get done. I think even though I'm a producer when it comes to theater, I think naturally I'm just a producer in everything. So in my
Mm.
mind, I'm always organizing things and what I do for my day, I help in ministry with both churches that I'm kind of serving in, and that's a whole long story. But anyway, but where I serve, like, so I take like maybe a half an hour or 30 minutes out of the day to make sure certain things are done there. I'm getting ready for my production. So I have those conversations with that team. And that's how I get it. Like I just get it done. And I just know like I can't let nothing hit the floor. Um, but yeah, having a team when you do a lot, it's the best thing. I would never encourage someone to try to do everything themselves because you'll burn out.
Yeah, yeah,
You will burn
yeah,
out.
for sure. I definitely, even the things that I do, I had to recently bring on a personal assistant to help me with some things. And I'm thinking about getting someone else, especially with some business ventures that I have coming up next year. So, yeah, I mean, you can find an assistant for $3 an hour. Not that I'm jipping nobody like that, but
Yeah,
I'm just saying you can go on these apps and just find somebody to do projects for you to help, just kind of spread the wealth of things that you have to do because we all want one person. We need to, have that self care. We need to, be able to unplug and that stress. We don't want to, be all stressed out trying to do ministry. I mean, that's no good.
right. And it's funny because I think like, how some people sometimes if they have too much on their plate, they can't handle it or anything like that. With me, I'm motivated. Like it helps. Like I don't know what it is, but I feed off of knowing something needs to get done. I remember the last show I did. I had planned it out so good that it was it wasn't a lot of things to do, and I was just like, am I forgetting something? Like, are we sure we've taken care of everything?
Hmm.
Because I don't know. It's something about just having like multiple things, tasks to make sure I get done, it helps me. Like if I'm not doing something, I'm bored.
Mm. Yeah, well, I'm gonna stress to you. Make sure you take time to unplug because
Yeah.
you need that downtime. I guess even after your show, you can take a little quick, sabbatical, 2 weeks, 1 week,
Yeah.
whatever you need to kind of refuel and re-energize yourself. So that way you can have, that downtime. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We definitely need it.
Yeah, it's hard though. I have to say. I
Hmm.
do. I have to say that it's hard. It's hard not to think about, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. But you know what? Sometimes it's just best. It's part of our well-being. So you do a podcast.
Mhm.
with your bestie, the Authentically Her podcast. It's all about sisterhood and all that girl empowerment, girl power kind of thing. Tell me a little bit about what Authentically Her is about.
So, so this is the funny thing, and this is an exclusive. This is
Well,
an
you heard it here
exclusive.
first, y'all.
Y'all heard it here first, okay? Authentically Her is actually the launch because of me being petty.
Oh Lord.
So, and this is what happened. So, and I can say it now, but my fiance, he has a podcast, and it was
Oh, can
called
we hear that again? Can we say that? Let that roll off your tongue one more time.
my fiance.
Yes, fiance.
He has a podcast that was called Man Code, and I was one of the guests on there, in the earlier parts about dating, and then it became just about the guys, and me and my best friend were heavy supporters of it, of course, naturally. And
Mhm.
so he was like, we're gonna bring the girls back on for a couple of episodes, but he was like, but we're not bringing, Krys and her bestie, or Tam, that's her name, on the show. And I'm like, why not? Like, so basically I started Authentically Her as a response to whatever show that they was doing that day. We was gonna respond on our own time.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so, but what happened was it wound up being a great thing because we had already been talking about, back to what we said earlier, a seed is always going to be planted. We always talked
Mhm.
about doing a podcast because me and my best friend, I think that we're very different in our thinking and our approach, and even how we see sisterhood and friendship. And we've been friends for over 20 years. And so we wanted to create a show for women where we talked about the authenticness of women. So
Mhm.
we, like, our first show, we had a female doctor on there that was talking about some of the taboo conversations that we as women just don't talk about. And it was a great show because I personally feel, especially in the Christian community, that we don't talk about women's health enough,
Mm.
and we find out too late in life so many struggles that we have going on with our body because everybody's just concerned about you just not having sex,
No,
like
for
not
sure.
not knowing that there's something else that could be wrong and you're not going to the doctors. So the Authentically Her is basically about how you develop and evolve and grow as a woman and being your authentic version of yourself, and not even, I believe in affirmations, I believe in uplifting, but sometimes I personally feel like sometimes we do so much gassing that sometimes we don't deal with the realness of some of the things that we're doing. And so we put what's like a fake confidence on top of hurt. And so I wanted to create a show where we could deal with the real so that we could have real confidence and real conversation so that we can heal and be our authentic selves. And it goes
Mhm.
back to how God originally created us.
Wow. Yeah. That's so good. That's so good. So, you started this following, you said being petty, but it seems like it's a great topic. Some great conversations are being had. I look forward to you continue working this area. I have myself listened to a few couple episodes from you guys, and they've been pretty good and pretty interesting. So keep it up. You know what I mean?
We got to definitely get you on the show. We know you're busy, but we definitely have to get
Oh
you
yeah,
on the
for
show.
sure. Anytime, anytime. Oh my goodness, this is such a good conversation. Might have to have you back on to talk about married life, sis. So,
Yeah.
um, so tell us if there's anybody out here who would love to get into theater production or all of that stuff you do in the creative space. What are you have any strategies that you would give them to assist them and to help avoid some of those pitfalls you may have faced?
Yes. The first thing that I would say is don't wait for a door to open, create your own door.
Mm.
I didn't go to school for theater. I didn't have anybody to show me the way. I didn't have a mentor or anything. Back to that download, God told me everything that I was supposed to do when I did my first show, from writing a script to me randomly going past a facility that has a stage.
Mm.
He orchestrated the beginning of my career with theater. And I just did what he told me to do, and that opened up the rest. So I would say, if you are in a place where you want to get into theater and things like that, go to stage plays. Go to theater productions that's in your local city, your local town. Go to some of the smaller shows. See what's going on in your city. Definitely do that. If you are a writer or you're one who wants to do the directing, I would say definitely go. My university has been going to shows. I've been going to shows for years since I was a kid. But that's how I learned. I went to shows and I would listen to the people to hear what they like, what they didn't like. Not too many songs, do more songs. This didn't start on time. Some people who felt like they wasted their money. Some people felt like the show was so good. So I think that you have to allow everything to be your university. I definitely would say start off small, because out of 50 people who say they come into your show, 20 might come out of that. And I would just say, like, have at it. Don't wait for a door. If you feel that you have the download and you have the green light and that you're ready with the production part or with the writing part, I would say put it together. Also, don't try to do it all by yourself. And definitely the people that you're using to help you, make sure that that's a field or a arena that they're good at, because sometimes we use our friends to help us and we get frustrated when they're not doing their job, but it's just that they don't have the capacity to do what you need to do.
That's good. That's good. Some great, great, great advice. And we look forward to your upcoming show and shows and the evolution of Chronicles of Krys Productions. We know that stage plays may not be the only venture that you have in play in that area. And there are lots of opportunity to kind of springboard into other ventures. So that's super dope. And I think that you had the capacity to do that and more. So what's next for you? It sounds like you're getting married and you got a
Yeah.
play coming up and you got these businesses. What's next? I mean, I know you're getting married, but anything else?
Yeah, I am, like, so within the next year, I am going to be working on I'm going to be working on a web series. I'm going to always do theater because that's my first love, but I
Mm,
am moving towards trying to get into filming.
okay.
So that's a whole new world for me. So the beginning of the year, once some of these things are done, that's going to be my focus. I will be authentically her. We'll be doing some type of women's conference or gathering or something like that. So we're looking forward to just growing the authentically her community, and that's pretty much in ministry. I'll be full time at my fiance's ministry at by time 2023 come around.
Mm.
So yeah.
That's awesome. Sounds like a lot of great things. And I do know that they have the African American Film Festival. Well, I'm sure you know all about that. They have that in Martha's Vineyard. We are actually, my husband and I, some friends are planning to go this year, but there may be opportunity, for you to go, whether it's next year or the year after. But that might be a dope spot to kind of just make connections in that space. But there are a lot of people in here in the DMV area who do, film and can help you
Yeah.
make
I
sense of
actually
that.
was just on I was just on set a couple of weeks ago for a motion picture that's being filmed here, and I was one of the extras,
Oh,
and
nice.
somebody was telling the director, like, hey, she does plays, da, da, da. So we connected. So back to just be where you're supposed to be, and doors will definitely open.
For
That's what's
sure.
happening.
Totally agree. Totally agree. So that's all great. And we pray much success over all of the ventures that you have going on. And we love to see it. So if I ask you what it means to go global, what would you say?
I would say when I hear that, and it's so funny you asked me that because every time I see you post, I think about what it means to me. I would say it means go big. Whatever God has given you, to not keep it small, to go all the way with it, for it to reach the people, because we don't have success for ourselves. We have success for others.
That's good.
So going global means whatever purpose that you have on this earth, know that somebody is getting hope, somebody is being restored, somebody is looking up to something because you not just were successful, but because you obey God.
Mm. Wow. Go big and obey God. How about that?
That's
Well,
it.
this has been the Girl Go Global podcast. I've been so pleased to talk with Miss Krys Childs, the creative. I have renamed you, girl. The creative. She is doing big things in the DMV area. Look her up, y'all. And if people want to get in contact with you for any reason, how can they do that?
They can follow me on social media. On Instagram, I'm Krys Chronicles. That's Krys with a K, Krys. Chronicles, Khronicles. It's Chronicles with a K. You know, I got to bring my K in there. And then on Facebook, I am Kristen Noel. I'm Krystin hyphen Noelle Childs. And all of the things that I do is kind of filtered on my personal pages. So you'll see Authentically Her, which does have its own Instagram, but all of that information is there.
Awesome. So we love to see it. If you are looking for a creative, you know where to find one, child. So thank you so much for joining me. This has been such a great conversation. And I hope that you can come back on and just let us all know about that married life, y'all. So this has been the Girl Go Global podcast where faith and works are empowered. Thank you so much for joining.